Welcome, Shelbie.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, and let me introduce you to our audience. We are excited to be speaking to Shelbie Kovach today, who is there's so many things on that list that I actually had to write it down. Former Arizona State cheerleader dancer, former LA Lakers and LA Rams cheerleader dancer, Arizona State University dance competition team, and who came second in nationals and represented the US at the World Championship competition and won first in jazz.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Correct. You got everything right. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for joining. I also want to make sure to mention Shelbie's experience store on the SPRTER app. So for anyone who wants to engage more with her and look at some awesome experiences that she offers on the SPRTER app, engaging one-on-one calls, etc., head over to the SPRTER app, check out her profile there. But let's dive in. Can you walk me back to where it all started? Where did you develop a passion for dance?
So I was about 3 years old when I started dance, and my mom was a dancer, so she put me in dance lessons when I was that young. But of course that helped me get started, but it was my own passion and just competitiveness that kept me going. And I'm just so, I'm so competitive. So I always wanted to be the best. I was always the girl, like, watch me do this, mom, look at me, or just anyone watch me like do a trick, a dance move. So I was always like that growing up, and that's just how I kept going. I started at a dance studio, and I just took classes from everything: ballet, tap, hip hop, jazz, contemporary, lyrical, even some like salsa, ballroom, but I'm not too advanced with those types of dancing. But just to be the most well-rounded dancer, that's always a good thing, because you never know, as you evolve, you never know what you're going to like more. And that's how you just develop what you like. So you do so many different styles, and that's what I always did growing up. Then when I went to, I guess starting with middle school, I was on the middle school cheer team, because we didn't have like a pom dance team in middle school. So the only thing you can do is cheer. And I loved just like the idea of being a cheerleader, just wearing a uniform, representing your school, being enthusiastic. I have energy, like it's just perfect for me. So ever since middle school, I was on a team at my school. So I started there. Then I went to high school, did varsity pom my whole high school. Moving forward to college level, I made the Arizona State dance team, which is what I did for 4 years.
I've got to stop you right there. This is
Okay.
amazing. Like, no, I don't want to stop you. I want to pause you. So it's an awesome story all the way to like that competitiveness, next level. Walk me through this. How is getting to ASU is obviously one of I think it is the biggest university in the country. It's so competitive to get into at any sport. It's such a big athletic program. So can you walk us through how you entered, how you got to the dance team there? Because I think a lot of our listeners are really interested into, okay, how do I take that level from high school where you compete with, there's maybe 500, maybe 800 other students at your high school, to then competing against basically students around the nation, because everyone wants to go to some of the biggest schools in the nation.
Oh, yeah.
How can you walk us through that?
Okay, so it's definitely a different level. Once you graduate high school, going into college, you have to prepare yourself so much because it is different. But I would say, I would say that Arizona State is a huge university, but so is the Ohio State is really good. Tennessee was so good when I was in college, Minnesota. You have a lot of other like D1 huge colleges that you're going against, but definitely Arizona State is one of the big ones. So the fact that I made that team, and I kind of put me and a few others, we put Arizona State on the map, because my first year was the first year we ever competed at UDA Nationals. Okay. And we got fifth for jazz, but we didn't even place with hip hop. Our first year, we didn't do that well. But then my senior year, that's where we really started getting like, my junior year, we got third. My senior year, we got second. And that's where we placed first at Worlds. So it's not something that you just like do in one day. Okay, I'm ready. Like, it takes practice. You have to prepare yourself. And I would say if you're a high school pommy or dancer looking to be a college dancer or on a team, especially for a huge university, you just have to, number one, you have to want it for yourself, because, you know, dancers, you've talked to so many athletes, like, dance is a sport, but it's a subjective sport. So it's an opinionated sport. So you have to remember that. And going into it, you just have to know that you have to want it. You're not doing it for money. You're not doing it for fame. Of course, you have amazing experiences, but like a lot of male sports, you're not getting residuals, payments every week. Now college athletes are even getting paid, right? Like,
Yep.
For schools. So it's crazy. Like, you have to remember, dance and pom and cheer, we're definitely growing as a sport, but it's still, number one, you have to do it for yourself because you love it. And then if you have that drive within you, you'll be unstoppable because you'll want to prep as best as you can. You just have to stay in class, stretching. You got to stretch. Like, any athlete, stretching and flexibility is underrated, but that's the number one thing that I teach my students now. The more flexible you are, especially as a dancer and in the cheer like world, the more flexible you are, the easier the skills, the easier just going across the floor is, jumps, leaps, kicks, everything is just going to be better. So I would say keep your flexibility up, and you got to know how to talk to people. You have to be yourself. You're an ambassador for a business or a franchise, and you have to be presentable. If something's not going your way, you just have to smile and, you know, be the bigger person. Whereas more like other sports, you get to speak up more. You get to be kind of more like your own personality. Whereas if you're a dancer or a cheerleader, you have to know what you're wearing is bigger than yourself, and you have to just know how to talk and be super professional no matter what you're talking about, because that's very important. So I would say those are big factors, not even going from high school to college, but college to pro too. It keeps going. So those are very important.
So that's a really good step that you just mentioned, as in, okay, it didn't stop with ASU, right? So we see athletes that are competing at the university level, and then they're like, okay, I got my degree, I'm done now. But you proceeded forward, and in the, I guess it's a Shark Tank in LA, right? When
Oh,
like
yes.
that is one of the most competitive business and entertainment fields in the nation. So you competed for 2 LA teams. How did you go about that? How did that happen? Did coaches reach out? Did you reach out? Did you have help? How did you go about getting those gigs with the Lakers, which is, I mean, arguably one of the biggest franchises in the world?
Yes. So after Arizona State, once I graduated college, I always wanted to do NFL and NBA. And the Laker girls are iconic for NBA. Just like you said, the Lakers franchise is like the top for NBA.
Yeah.
Even though they're not doing that good this year, they're still the Lakers.
Oh.
Like, yeah, just, you know what I mean? Their franchise, they're iconic. They're just iconic. So I always wanted to do that. Living in Arizona, California is not that far away. So this is something you don't get asked to do. Like, coach, it's not like other sports where there's recruitments, there's scouts. That would be cool if it was like that, which maybe someday it'll get to that point for dance and cheer. But if you want to try out for a professional sport, you have to want it yourself. You have to research yourself. You have to know the dates. You have to be prepared yourself. Of course, you can reach out to other girls on the team, and the dance world, just like the sports world, it's a small world. So maybe you knew a girl who was on the team, or maybe she knows someone that you can kind of get help with and ask. But for the most part, you're on your own. So you have to research yourself. You have to know the tryout dates. You have to, if it's in another state from where you live, you have to travel there. You go through processes that entail interviews. They make cuts just from, you could be standing there and say your name, why you want to be a Laker girl, and they make a cut even from that, because it's intense. Because let's say you're a good dancer, but you don't know how to talk to people. You get nervous. Then you can't, you're not going to fit the part. You have to be a well-rounded, like 180 everything. You got to know how to dance, know how to smile, be in shape, look presentable, know how to talk. So all these like auditions have everything in there. You have interviews across the floor. You learn different dances. You have to remember choreography. It's a lot. And then also, don't forget, whatever team you're trying out for, they could ask you like, so who's on the roster this year? Who's our starting players? Who's the coach? Who's the manager? Like stuff like that. You have to know the teams. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Okay, so there's a lot. I want to delve into a few of those aspects a little bit deeper. Obviously, knowing the players for a basketball team is maybe a bit easier than for a whole football team. But what other differences were there between dancing for the Lakers and working for the Lakers and the Rams?
So just in general, NBA is so many more games. There's so many more games than NFL. So it's definitely more of a commitment, just in the sense of it's a longer season. But depending on which franchise you're with, that's even different too. Like for instance, well, first you asked me the difference between Lakers and Rams. Lakers is a longer season just because it is NBA and that you have more games. But also, since it is, I don't want to say more, I mean, it is more iconic than the Los Angeles Rams, even though the Rams just won the Super Bowl, and I'm repping NFL right now. I love football. I love it. Their SoFi Stadium is amazing. But in the sport of NBA, the Lakers are the top, whether they're good or not. They're just, it's LA. So it was definitely more disciplined. It was more strict with just the organization. You cannot like fraternize. You can't mess up on the court. If you are showing even like an undergarment, you could be pulled from the game. And I don't want to talk down to the Rams, because they're just as professional, and you have to know your choreography. You can't mess up. It goes the same as Rams, but just NFL is more, it's more fun. Like you have pom-poms. It's in a football stadium. It's about the hair, the palms. You're wearing boots on grass. So you're doing a little bit, I don't want to say easier choreography, but on the Lakers court, it's a court. The audience is closer to you. You can do harder dance moves than being on grass in boots. So I would say NBA was a little harder for me personally, just my experience with the teams I did. And I also did Lakers first, so I was younger. And then I did Rams later in my life, and I was older. And I would say majority of NFL teams usually have slightly older girls. And some NFL teams, you have to be 21 to even make the team. But some teams you can be 18. Every franchise is different. But going back to the question you asked, I would say for me personally, my experiences, the NBA, being a Laker girl, was definitely more disciplined. Like it was a job and very strict, but also so rewarding. And then Rams, it was still a job, but it was more fun. It was more laid back in a sense, but still professional. So that's how I would compare my experiences.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what you just mentioned in terms of the NBA has so many more games than the NFL, and it's something it makes sense, but I didn't think about for the dance team as well. That one is, yeah, you got 3-4 games sometimes a week, whereas, well, sometimes you for the NFL you got 2 weeks in between home games. So
Right.
that's also something I think many people don't understand is when you are on the dance team or a cheerleader for an organization, can you walk us through what you do in those, call it those 2 weeks? As in, are you training? Are you doing some community events, or are they just saying, hey, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll be back later.
So you're definitely doing something, whether it's keeping your body in shape, going to the gym, taking dance classes, stretching. You have multiple charity events and even practices. Even though you don't have games, you'll still more than likely have practices just to upkeep any choreography you guys are working on, or what the team's going over. So just because like for NFL you don't have games, it could be a week, a bye week, an away week, and there goes 2 weeks of your life. You're still doing plenty of things, whether it's charities, promos, events, practice, even just like I said, going to the gym by yourself, working out by yourself, taking dance classes on your own. You're definitely involved with the community, and it's just like a little bit different than other sports. If you're a dancer or a cheerleader for a team, you are like full season, fall, winter, spring, and then summertime you have tryouts, you're prepping again for next fall, winter, spring. It's like nonstop.
Okay, so that it sounds a lot more full on than I think many of our listeners are realizing. So that's really awesome to hear. Now you mentioned one aspect that you have been involved with a lot of these charities or causes and events that the sport team has been doing, and you are engaged with a lot of that. You care for causes, particularly when looking through your sporter profile. You mostly interested in supporting the environment or care for wildlife conservation, sustainability. And you're also looking to support the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation. Can
Yes.
you walk me through a little bit in terms of what motivates you to care for the environment? What is behind that motivation? Why do you care for that, and what's the personal connection?
Okay, absolutely. I very much care for our environment. Of course, without our environment, how could you do any sports? But I just, ever since I was young, I've always been interested in the ocean and wildlife and so many things with the like environmental side of Earth, and just talking about, if you know me, you'll know I love to recycle. And I just have always been like human nature, you want to be better always, and that's my competitiveness in myself
Hmm.
too, which connects to sports. But like, I love giving to the younger generation, or helping our future. How can we, what does this all mean in life if we're not helping the future generations? So when it comes to the environment, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio is like obviously one of the best actors in my opinion, even though he's only got one Oscar.
I
But
agree.
yes, he's amazing. And I don't know, just like, I agree with a lot of the things that he believes in. And then he has his own organization and charity that gives back to the environment, and he's an environmentalist. And everything he posts isn't even about acting, which I think's interesting. If you follow him, he's so just about the environment. Like, that's his like number one thing. So I think going towards that, I just agree with him, and I couldn't stress more that we need to, start thinking about things for our future, because our kids, their kids, life is crazy. Like, we just have to be smart about things, and if everyone does their part, it'll make a difference. But personally, really quick, living in LA, it's LA, right? So you have different like vibes there. And one thing that I did love is, so I was I used to eat meat, everything, dairy, no matter what it was growing up. I was not picky at all. College, same thing. Then when I moved to LA, I don't know if it was like the surrounding environment. It probably did like reflect off me, but I slowly started becoming vegetarian. Then I was like full force vegan for a few years. And now I'm actually back in Arizona, and I'm not vegan like
Give
100%.
me those ribs.
Yeah, even that is super hard, because it's even that is a lot of like, you have to know what you're eating, where it comes from, how much, like, don't go crazy on yourself. I've learned that being a dancer too, that connects of like what you eat and whatnot. But talking about the environment, it's just, I think that's a huge step even to help our environment. I don't eat a lot of red meat, and if you're a dancer, I strongly suggest like thinking about, try being vegetarian for a week, see what it does to your body. Do you want long lean muscles? Because in a sense, even though you're a cheerleader dancer, you're still, you want like a lean ballerina type body. You want to be long, have strength and muscles, but still be skinny. Sorry, there's a dog barking outside. But you still want to be skinny, athletic, but strong. So you need protein, but like whole foods, not like junk food, simple carbs. You want to, what you put in your body, you want it to be nice and fresh. So all this dance talk goes with the environment, because you can help save the environment if you become vegetarian and you are healthier. So I'm not forcing anyone to do that, but I definitely learned that it works for me. And one of my best friends, who was a Laker girl and a Rams cheerleader, she actually is a chef, and she makes a lot of vegan stuff. And when people hear the word vegan, it's like, oh my gosh, what do you eat? Raw broccoli? But like, there's so many things that you could make and do with it. So that's a cool thing. I think that people should try out doing that. Not only it saves the environment, it will help your body. You'll feel different, especially if you're an athlete. There's different ways to get protein and to help like fuel your body for sure. So try it out.
Yeah, we've gone. We see more and more athletes transitioning to vegetarian and vegan as well. And I'm with you with the environment. I fly way too much for me to be able to eat meat as well. So I'm like, all right, I give up one of those two, but I'm not giving up traveling. So.
I know. It's hard. But so you don't eat meat either?
No, I've gone the vegetarian route because of that. And I like animals. So when you say, sorry, there's a dog barking, we like dogs.
I know.
We're all about the animals at SPRTER as well. So
okay.
That's all good. Now, one thing you mentioned over and over again, I think it's obviously, as you are the face of an organization as a cheerleader, there's so many different pressures, right? You need to be able, not just dance, you need to have it all.
Right.
But there's also a lot of pressure, right? In order to be perfect. You can't mess up this one thing. And I know that that must be very challenging, particularly for young women as well, as they go through the ranks. Do you have any advice for some of our younger audience in terms of how to deal with that pressure that comes from the organizations or the coaches, etc., to be quote unquote perfect?
So I would say some advice would be never take anything personal, even though it is personal to you. You never know what it's from. Like let's say you didn't make a team, or you tried out for something and you got cut. What if it was because they had too many brown-haired girls and just that's who you were competing against and you didn't make it? What if they, like, especially for when you talk pro levels, it's all about the image of the team. So you have to have brunettes, blonde, redheads. You have to have white, black, Asian, Latinos, like especially LA, melting pot. You have to have everyone. So So you never know what it could be about, why you didn't make something. I would say the number one thing is never take anything personal in life, and if you have your mindset on something, you just got to keep going with it and stay true to yourself and try out again. There's been so many girls I've heard of, like, oh, I tried out, I didn't make it, but I researched the team, I studied them, I got smarter with the look, the style, and then I tried out again and I made it. Some girls, it takes 3 times to make out. I think I've even heard a girl try out for Lakers 4 times, and then finally she made it. So never give up too. You never know. And some teams have girls some teams make it mandatory to be 21 years old for like pro levels. Some teams are 18. And it's crazy because when I was a Rams cheerleader, every single person was 21 or older. And that wasn't even a rule. It just happened that way. But you have to remember, you're doing things that are very professional, and you're going to events that maybe have alcohol. You have to know how to talk to people. And some teams just make it 21 and up just because the maturity level, like to have an 18-year-old with a 28-year-old, that could be a little different. So you just have to remember, whatever the organization is, study their regulations, their guidelines. And if you don't make it, don't take it personal. It could be for whatever reason. But when I was a Laker girl, so I did Lakers when I graduated, after I graduated college. So I was 22 when I made Lakers. And again, like there's some girls who do Lakers right after high school, but I think that I would suggest, if you can, like, this is what I did, try experiencing a college team before you go pros if you're in the dance world, because, like, first of all, it's totally different experiences. Second of all, you get your college degree, which is great. And like, third of all, it just gives you so much more wisdom. When you're on a team in college, you develop stronger skill sets, better teamwork. You're more knowledgeable in how to present yourself, doing charity events. It's just like any sport. It takes practice. You know, it's not just you sleep overnight, wake up, okay, I'm here. It takes a long time. So I would suggest definitely trying to do a college team and then going to a pro NBA or NFL team. But let's say you don't want to do that and you want to go pro right away. That's great too. And maybe you're more mature. It's kind of just the individual with what you want to do. And I always knew I wanted to dance in LA, but I also, like, I always wanted to be in college and experience that too, which some people don't want to. So it just depends on yourself. But I would say just follow your dreams, follow your heart, be confident. Don't take anything personal. And if you set your mind to something, like we always say, like, you'll be able to do it no matter what.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to be cognizant of your time, but before we wrap up, I know you're also coaching now. So can you tell me a little bit more about your motivation behind coaching and what it means to you and how you approach it now and from your past experience?
Okay. So coaching means the world to me now, and I'm not only a coach, but just a dance teacher, an instructor, a choreographer, a cheerleader. I'll motivate you. I'll be your hype girl. It's a lot. Plus I teach kids ages 4 to 18 at least. So like little kids, I also have to be aware of, like, I don't want to say babysitting because we're here to dance, but I still have to, like, be aware of, okay, why are you crying? Why are you upset? Like, it's like a full-time job that not only dance, but with everything, you have to be aware of their emotions and everything. But I would say it's just so close to my heart because literally everything I'm teaching these kids now is what I did. Like, everything these dancers want to do, I did. And I'm so glad. See, that's another reason why do as much as you can. Go to high school, go to college, do NFL, NBA. Don't just say, oh, I want to do this one thing and then that's it. Because later in life, the more opportunities you went through, the more experience, wisdom you've grown, the better you'll be to teach that someday. Like, I never even really wanted to, I mean, of course, I've been a dance teacher and I've grown up with dance, but a lot of people have been like, why don't you open up your own dance studio? Why don't you become a dance teacher someday? And when I was living in LA, I was more selfish. Like, I don't want to teach dance. I want to be a dancer. I want to be in a commercial. I want to be a model. I want to do like for myself. But that was like a phase. And again, you never know where life takes you. So I feel like when I was living in LA, I was more concentrated about what I want to do and who I am and what I can establish for myself. But now that I'm back in Arizona and I'm teaching dance, I have realized I went through that phase in life. Now I'm 100% committed to everything I've learned, putting it out to these dancers to help them with what they can learn or what they can do in life. So I just hold that so strong to my heart. And I hope that I can teach these girls everything, and boys. I teach boys dance too, because boys are really good dancers as well. And so I teach hip hop. I teach a lot of pom. That's like my main thing is pom, because just doing pro teams, I'm so like dance team oriented now. But I can teach jazz, pom, hip hop. I've taught tap, which I'm not that advanced with, but I'm just so well-rounded from my whole life. And I hope that I can teach all these girls everything that I've known, because that's the number one thing as being a coach and dancer, is to see these smiles on their faces. And when we win first, it's like how happy they get, and it sparks a flame in you. Like, once you go to a competition and you win, and even if you don't win, just the environment of competing and the sport itself, to see all these other dancers, cheerleaders, like, it sparks a flame in you. And we just had a competition last weekend with my dancers. They did amazing. I'm so proud of them. And I can just tell, like, okay, that was one. Now we're at the next one. Like, they're going to be set for life, and I'm going to force them to dance forever because I love it. They love it. And it's so good for you. Seriously, just with everything in your life, it teaches you discipline, teamwork, patience, resilience, hard work. Like, it's amazing. So that's what I want to stress on all my students and dancers, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think we need that phase in our life where we take care of ourselves first in order to enter that next phase where we can help others as well. So I think when you say, hey, I had that more of a me first phase in LA, I think that's really important to go through that phase, then to be able to be a coach and to be able to care for others as well. So that's really awesome to hear. Really awesome insight. Thank you so much for joining. I want to be cognizant of your time.
Thank you.
Is there anything that I haven't asked to round it up, or that you had in mind?
There's so many things. I know.
I know. I have so many more questions of dance, but particularly actually. So as a professor here at Temple University, I work sometimes with a dance team in the class, and they're very passionate as well, and they tell me how they sometimes feel like they're not seen as athletes, but I'm like, yo, if you're not seen as an athlete, I don't know what an athlete should be.
Right.
So I understand the sacrifices dancers are making, so it's pretty impressive. And having done that at the highest level. I mean, this representing the Lakers is pretty much, it doesn't get higher than that. So it's awesome to see. Any of our audience that wants to connect, follow Shelbie on all of the socials. We got her on Real Shelbie on Insta, Miss Shelbie for her dance teaching as well, and check her out on the SPRTER app. There's plenty of experiences that she offers in Experience Store. So check out those to connect more with her as well. Thank you for joining us, and all the best as you gear up with the dancing. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope I make every difference in anyone who's interested in dance. I'm here for you. Any questions, I will be here to help. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.